All right. It is Monday, August 5th, 9 p.m. my time, whatever time it is, wherever you are. It's a different thing entirely. Um, we managed to get off to a rolling start before I started recording. So I am going to ask Carl and Ryan to talk for a moment um, about this. They were talking about the TS 1510 clone. So I'm gonna ask Ryan to go first because he was talking about
Oh,
his program. Ryan just
well,
said
it's probably best to start over. So,
that's to start over. Okay. All right. So Joe had a question about um, how you break up a program that to get it onto one of the cartridges. Um, Carl, can you quickly recap?
Right. So basically, like I said, none of this design is mine, right? It's Superflow design. He basically just copied the Timex 1510 circuitry, and then Claudius made a smaller cartridge. So that's his design. I guess the Superflow design was a kind of a really tall cartridge, so you could actually, I think, actually put it into the player, the original Timex player. Whereas Claudius's design is much shorter, and you can't put those into the player because there's just the chip will hit the casing. Anyway, so we were just discussing how you put a program right onto the flash chip on the cartridge, and I we were discussing. I don't know that that was ever discussed. I know we've discussed it here in Albuquerque, amongst ourselves, but not maybe the whole group. Now that a lot of you guys have kind of, you have some of these things, and if you want to put a game on it, obviously, 8K cartridges or less than 8K, are pretty easy. You just put them, starting at 0 hex on the flash chip to an 8K chunks,
So
right? So
when you
zero,
say 8K, you mean a game that is 8K or less in terms of how
right.
much RAM it uses. Okay.
Right.
All
So
right.
most of the cartridges, right, that Timex came out with, other than Flight Simulator, are 8K programs, right? They don't take 16K.
Yeah.
They don't go beyond the 8K barrier, I should say. You still need a 16K RAM pack, obviously, because they're not 2K games. They won't play in 2K of RAM, but they are certainly not large enough programs where they needed to have a separate, 8K chip. We kind of mentioned that in other meetings where Timex original design was they actually had two physical 8K chips inside of the cartridge, or they had the capability to do that, right? I
That's
mean,
right.
most of them, yeah,
Yeah.
most of the cartridges, like I said, three of the cartridges, chess, what is it, states and capitals, and uh, I'm drawing a blank on the third one, but
You
they
got me.
just needed 8K. They needed one 8K die, right? That was what stuck down onto the board in there. Flight Simulator is the only one that was 16K, right? It goes beyond the 8K boundary, so it needs another 8K chip. Um, and so that's where the circuitry that either Superflow or Claudia, whoever, they switch the address lines going into the circuitry, the decoding circuitry, and so it would work with an 8K game, but if
Mhm.
you tried Flight Simulator, it would not page in the upper 8K chip because of the logic was kind of messed up since he swapped the A15 and A14 address lines to the decoding logic. So I bodged the fix for that on my board, and I know Joe, redid that and fixed that problem. I don't know if Joe, if you added, the diode and gate on there. I think you did. I'm not sure.
um, that doesn't sound familiar. I don't remember any talk of a diode and gate, so
Okay.
probably
So
not.
maybe so okay. So if you don't have any two diodes and the pull-up resistor for it, then that's part of the fix for that as well.
Those are the ones on the
Uh,
bottom of the board.
right,
Okay.
right.
Hang
So
on,
they
Ryan. I'm going to spotlight
basically
you.
Yeah, basically there's two outputs, right? There's on the original Timex design, there's a lower 8K chip select,
Yep.
right? Or the first 8K chip select and the second 8K chip select. And on Claudius's design, they really don't do anything with the upper 8K chip select, so that's why Flight Simulator never worked or would never work.
Okay.
So basically, I just didn't want to add any extra gates on there because they're actually all used. There's 4 gates in each of those chips and they're all used. So I just said, well, we'll do the cheap man's, or how do they call it?
Sinclair way.
Yeah, exactly. And I just threw some two diodes in there and a pull-up resistor. And so, yeah, if either one gets selected, it'll enable the flash chip, right? So that's kind of how that works. The other thing is
Wait, hold on
obviously,
one sec.
go
When you
ahead.
say either one, are those diodes from A14 or and A15?
No, they're after the decoding logic,
Okay. Okay.
right? So that kind of decodes whether it's the lower 8K or the upper 8K chip, right? And it would go to the respective die on the cartridge,
Okay.
right? So there's actually an extra pin on the cartridge that would allow that, but we don't use that in ours, the clone, because we're using a one big huge chip. So whether we don't have two physical chips there, we don't need that in this day and age. So we just AND them together, let the
Okay.
decoding logic do its thing. Where that comes into play is in um, the program that's in the beginning of the cartridge, right? The cartridge code, the loading
Yes.
code for the cartridge. That's where it's designed to know that the lower 8K is going to be from 0 to 8, 1 FFF,
Mm-hmm.
and then the upper one, which will be you know selected when A15 comes on.
Mm.
That'll enable the upper 8K, which is looking at 8,000 hex,
Okay.
Well, the
right?
first, no,
So
Carl, the first in memory, the first one's at 2000.
right, but I mean when the cartridge gets enabled, it's looking at
Within the
yeah, what
chip
does it
itself.
copy? Yeah, what does it copy? Does it copy from? Yeah, it's got to copy from 2000 because otherwise it's going to copy the ROM. Right, that's in the. So yeah, so basically, the decoding logic will look at 2000. If you're looking in the 2000 to 3FFF address space, then that's going to enable that lower 8K chip, right? That's going to enable the chip select for that. When you go to 815, and it's going to look at 8,000 for the second half of the 8K. So 8,000 to 9FFF. And so that code there basically does a copy, right, of that into the RAM. And so you have to kind of honor the address spacing that it's looking for in the original design,
Yeah.
right? If we made our own, well, then we can define that ourselves. And the loading code would have to, uh, mimic that. But, since there's only 4 Timex cartridges, uh,
Yeah.
you know,
Uh, so one thing how does the is there another sort of set of signals that are used to select the cartridge versus the RAM? Like, I mean, if you had, I don't know, a 32K RAM or something like that, would that mess it up? If you had
Yeah,
RAM, then
potentially,
that
yeah.
interferes. I've already proven that on my setup. So
okay. Okay, so what's the max amount of RAM you can have then? The 16K built in?
I believe, right. Either that or, if you had a 1500, it's going to have the 16K built in, or if you had the, 81 or the 1000, you're either going to have 1 or 2K. So that's why you need to have the RAM pack
Uh-huh.
if you're going to hook this up to a, ZX81 or a 1000. You don't need the RAM pack if it's on a 1500. Granted, you can put the RAM pack on it, but I don't think the cartridge would work at that point because, right, it maps the
It
built-in
uses
RAM to 8,000 hex and above.
okay.
So it would collide with that.
Very interesting. Okay, I didn't
Okay,
know that.
so if you have the built-in 32K onboard 32K Wilf Richter design,
Yeah.
um, that works as well because it puts 16K where the normal RAM pack goes, and then there's a blank area. That's where that second ROM would go, and then
Huh.
there's another 32K above that. So
Oh,
Oh,
really? Okay.
yeah,
that's
so
interesting.
I've proven that that worked. Um, so yeah,
But yeah,
Okay, so it does work. I guess it
yeah,
depends
I'm working
on.
on two different modules. One of them's just a ROM that just plugs right into an extended backplane that has
oh,
decoding logic right on the board, so it's all self-contained into one card.
Mhm.
So you can just plug it right into the backplane. And the other one is the 1510 recreation. Uh, I just if you could send me a sketch of the AND gate with the diodes, I'd like to see that. Just make sure I do it right because I can
Okay.
modify one that I put up there
hmm.
Okay.
on EDA.
Sounds
Easy,
good.
yeah.
And
Does
so
that
that's basically okay. So yeah, so that's basically how you have to split up a 16K cartridge. And like I said, Flight Simulator was the only one that Timex made that was a 16K cartridge.
Yeah.
The other three were 8K. They were just had the one 8K chip in there. And then of course any other games will be our creation, right? The community's creation because there are no other cartridges.
there
Yeah.
are other cartridges because there were like the ones that I recovered from the stuff David sent me. There were ROMs
Right. Yeah. So
he wanted me to pull, and I copied those off, and those actually work in that 1500 or 1510 recreation. I put them on the 1510 recreation, and they work just fine.
And what are these
uh,
ROMs?
these are
These are ROMs that came from like Fred Nachbar,
um
other
yeah,
folks.
maybe. These are John Oliger made a an
Yeah,
expansion board for
Mhm.
the 81 1000, and he also made literally cartridges that you could plug into the expansion board, right? That would hold one or two EPROMs, and this is all stuff that came from Jack Boatwright. Uh, these were these EPROMs that I think the Hot Z was on one of them. Was it like about eight of these different
yeah, there were
ROM?
different programs that were already ROMified, and
Yeah,
um,
yeah, and they gave you the address that you needed to switch to run it, but it's not a Timex cartridge. It's a
Right. It's
different
something
mechanism.
they
It
created.
just maps the EPROM to a place
That'd be
in it.
cool to get those from you guys, and then we can, because I guess we need to kind of put all of our stuff on out where everybody can get to it. But
Yeah.
right now we don't have all that there because we were doing testing, and I mean, we have quite a few that have been tested and they work. We know that, and then I know Ryan. I think that's kind of where Ryan may come in now and talk about his. He created a program that basically kind of ramifies a
Exactly the word I
program,
was going
right?
to use.
Yeah, right.
Ryan's
And
Romifier.
right, because Timex never published a specification on how to make cartridges, right? And I think they did that because looking at Ryan and how he's looked at some of these programs that I've asked him to romify that I would like romified, um, they uh, they need different techniques to actually make them work. So there's not just one catch-all way of doing it. That's kind of what it goes down to. Whereas I thought maybe Timex was just doing it one certain way, and that was the way they were doing it. And so I think when Timex was doing it, they had to kind of do it the way we're doing it. They had to look at the program, figure out how it's loading, and create a loader in the beginning of the cartridge, right, to emulate to load the program in properly. So it would have been different probably for different programs. Some programs probably can do the same thing, but other ones load a little funky. And so Ryan was running into that problem, and he came up with a program to do that. And not only that, apparently he's come up with a program to actually, once that's done and created, he's made a program to split into two 8K pieces so that you can, flash those onto the flash chip. So I'll let him kind of talk about that.
I just want to interject
Okay.
one thing real quick. I've noticed that some of the programs, some of them run from ROM directly because they're written to run from a ROM directly. I mean, there's no variables that need to be changed within the code or anything like that. The variables are actually put in the variables area. And then there's other ones that look like they need to be copied into RAM for them to run. And those have a loader right in the beginning. And especially anything that rewrites back into the machine code, if it has to modify the machine code within the program, then it has to go into RAM because, of course, you can't write the ROM. So yeah, I've noticed.
So to be clear, you're talking about these other ones that were found,
yeah,
from John Oliver,
not the Timex ones.
Okay. Carl?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, hello, this is Gustavo. I entered with some delay to the conference today, but maybe you mentioned that the initialization process of the 1500 is first test the number one at the 2000 address in X. If the value is 1, they detect that is a valid cartridge. Then, on the second and third location, you need to put 0 maybe, because when the Timex jumps to the 2000 address, the 1 in this location indicate LBC with a number, okay? And you need to put 0 because it's not crash the jump. And then you put the initialization of the cartridge. Normally you have a copy block to the RAM area, and then initialize as a new or any another entry point in the ROM, depending if basic or is machine code cartridge.
Gustavo, actually, Ryan was just about to talk about that.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, just one thing, Gustavo, you do mention the 01, and that's really just a dummy opcode, right? So I mean, it's not going to crash the machine. It just loads PC with the next two. So yeah, Timex kind of took that in consideration, and so even if you run that code, it doesn't really do anything. It's not going to crash the machine. That's kind of smart on their part. But anyway, take it away, Ryan.
Yeah, so basically I looked at this assembly of the 4 example ROMs that we had, and the routines were very similar. They were all a little different. I think two of them were just it has a block in the ROM, and it stores an address and says, okay, that needs to get copied to the beginning of the program area, and then you need to initialize everything and then copy this block to the program area, and then start basic going. The chess program was written in assembly, and that assembly is stored in the variables area, and so that one had a program block and a much larger variables block. And that routine is very similar. It just does the init and then copies what is a very small program to the program area, and then copies the variables block over. So otherwise, they're very similar, but not identical. So there were hints that these were kind of hand done initially, and they hadn't got to the point. Seems like these were the proofs of concept, and they kind of got those. Okay, let's make those, and then those are the ROMs we have. So they may have had a different loader scheme in-house that we've not seen yet, and certainly didn't make into production in the cartridge. And then the ROM for the flight sim was then the 16K. And so it's basically very similar in that it's just that it has a program block, but the program is too large. So it splits the program into two chunks and then loads those concatenated together. And the original loader basically tries to save space in the ROM by not including the display file. And then some of those, it doesn't include variables except for the chess program, which relies on that. And so what it does is it goes and does a memory zeroing, then sets a few system variables, copies the program in, and then on chess it also at that point at the end of the program it creates a collapsed display file and then initializes things which will expand that and set the variables area. And then in the chess program case, it goes to the variables, creates some room, and then copies the variables in. And so what I did is I basically looked at all that and kind of unified it and says, I'm just going to have one template that basically says you can have a program and a variables, and I'll look at the length to determine if there's no variables area. And also, depending on how big they are, each one might get split across the 8K boundary. So there's kind of like potentially 4 blocks. But it was just basically kind of like an expanded version of that original loader. And so then you could say, and then you give it a P file, and it basically goes in there and says, okay, it looks at the system variables that are stored there to get information about lengths of the parts of the program, and then gets the program data itself and the variables data if you're opting for that, and then copies a template of the loader into the beginning of the ROM image, sets all the variable code locations and their links as some data that it's going to use, and then puts the program bytes and the variable bytes in there. And such that when that gets loaded for real, that's all starting at 2000 hex. And that starts the loader, which then goes and grabs the stuff and does the business. That was the first version. And then we had some programs that just did not work that way. And so they probably never had to solve those problems because they didn't get to them. And so basically I had to solve that problem. And so one was
wasn't it view calc or view file or something?
View count and view file did a thing, perhaps for copy protection, perhaps for load verification is what it called it.
These are the tape versions you're talking about.
Well, they're all tapes.
Yeah,
I understand what but like some of the programs were later made into cartridges.
Yeah, like
yes.
Not for the 1000.
No, Adam's saying you took P files in order to make them into cartridge images.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the P file would be an image of the cassette version. But the P file, which are not snapshots, right? And so what I did was I says, well, P file works. So the reason so I just need to do what the P file does. The P file loading, or basically the load from cassette tape. And that is that the P file stores nearly all the system variables, and then the program, and then the display file, and then the variables. And so all I had to do was sum of the init, and then just put that block of data in the ROM, possibly split into the second 8K block, and just load it in that area just like it would if it was loading from tape. And after fixing some bugs in my initial version, and that worked. That made view count happy, and that also fixed the strange issue with those Bob stuff newer programs. They ever got a strange format error in the P file that it works if it's loaded normally, but it was having trouble with that original loader. And I couldn't figure out why. It worked if you told it. An option I had in the first version was you could tell it auto started a different line number, because I would get some P files that were of a program, but it wasn't auto started. They just saved it. So I made a way to say, well, okay, figure out all you needed to know to start on line 10 or whatever it was. And so if I told it, make that program start at this other line, it would just work for who knows why. But once I did the tape loader, those worked without any other modification. And so that has been working solidly on everything so far. And so now the exceptions are that I know about, which are the ones that in the batch that Carl sent me, are the I'm blanking on what that is.
Quicksilver games.
Quicksilver. The
Oh.
Quicksilver games are made to work with some Quicksilver hardware, and so they load two programs. There's an initializer that loads, and it's the hardware, and then loads the next program, which is the real game. And I don't yet have a way of dealing with two programs loading like that. But given that it also requires
can I ask a question about those Quicksilver games? Don't they require extra hardware anyway?
Yes.
Okay.
So since they require special hardware, I'm not really prioritized doing it, because I mean, hands up who has the Quicksilver special hardware.
Well, it's just a matter of time.
Carl's
Well,
going
see,
to add it to
that's
the
the
next
other
revision.
thing too, since we're kind of getting into this now, is another thing maybe we were thinking of putting onto the interface cartridge, the interface PCB for the cartridge, is some of these Quicksilver hardware things.
Little character
Right?
mod.
Yeah,
thing.
I don't think it's very much hardware, but that's just, I don't know what other what other programs for the 1000 or the ZX81 that needed extra peripherals for them to work. I know the Quicksilver programs do have a version that will load without their hardware, but I guess they don't work very well. I don't, I'm not sure about that, but anyway, that's just one thought that, since Ryan brought that up, we're thinking, in addition to making a joystick port, which since we were playing some of the games the other day, is almost like a no-brainer, right? You got to kind of have that, because it's just so hard to do it with the keyboard. I mean, it's not so bad for me, but as Adam was kind of mentioning, his hand would slip, because you're looking at the screen,
Yeah.
and your hand moves around on the keyboard, and you're not pressing the right key anymore. Right. Or if you have to move your hand.
The problem with a lot of those games is they also have awkward controls, which are the arrow keys, which really doesn't make a lot of sense. But,
yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah, my comment was, it seemed to me, it's like, why in the world, if you're supposed to use your fingers, would you use the arrow keys on the top row? And my conclusion was that they assumed most people had bought one of those cursor joystick add-ons.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I told Carl, says, why don't we just put that in there? Because that's going to cover a bunch. And the others that don't default to that, most of them, you can define the keys probably to be that.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question. I missed the first couple of minutes of this meeting. Did you guys mention that the three of us were together on Saturday and we played around with your 1510 player?
No, we didn't. We didn't mention that at all.
Yeah,
Okay.
we got derailed by just talking about the
Well,
hardware
we didn't.
and
Because we didn't do anything with the cartridges. That was more for the TS2000 prototype, which obviously we'll probably get to as well. But
yeah,
we're kind of stuck with not stuck, but we're talking about the 1510 stuff because Joe I gave him all the documents that I had, and he recreated it. But I guess we're kind of he didn't put the AND gate that's on there, the diode AND gate. So there's still some tweaking that needs to be done to get it up and working 100%. But that's when we start talking about, well, maybe we should add some things like you said, the joystick, an Atari joystick thing that goes to the cursor keys. Ryan also mentioned, if they don't use those keys, maybe there's, I think you mentioned something else had little cards that you could plug in. I don't know if I want to go that far, but, where you can actually tell, you could program your own key for that particular, up is this key, right?
Oh,
and you
right,
can jumper it.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw in a newsletter somewhere, someone made an interface that you put
Yeah.
in these little wired cards that made a wire map, and to depending on the key map for the game. It's kind of fun.
Hey,
But anyway, just looking at the 81 emulator, right? Quicksilver had a sound card, and there were
Mhm.
several others, of course. The character string generator, which I guess it generates uses a different character table. So Quicksilver and some others had that. They also had a high resolution board, I guess. And of course, there were a couple others of those. But I think it's all for Quicksilver. And then there's obviously the color
Ryan, when you're
mod
talking
ones
about
too.
the high res, are we talking about the ones that use like the Texas Instruments chip to do the high res mode?
No.
Oh, I don't know what they used. There's a WRX, the G007, Memotech,
Oh, you're
and
talking about
Quicksilver.
software high res then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I don't know.
Well, it
They
intercepts
may-
instead of using the ROM routines, it intercepts that and creates a different area in RAM.
Okay, so you're not adding a video chip then to it.
No.
No, there's no
I
new.
gotcha.
We're instead of using the ROM to generate whatever shows up on the screen, you're using a section of RAM and you're intercepting that whole process.
Yeah, I got you then.
Earlier Joe was talking about these cartridges that I sent him. I'm going to share
The same thing with something off the
one of
computer.
these. Here we go. So this is one that that I sent Joe. And it's this, John Oliger little thing. And as you can see on the back, it says 2716 by 4. So, because back in 3, I think is when what's the date on this? 83, yes. Back in 83, 2716s were, reasonably, easily available. And this was one of the, we don't know what it does.
It's a tape duplicator, isn't that obvious?
Probably, yes, exactly.
And that's one of the ones I can't get to run. So
yeah, and Joe, you didn't power this up. You just pulled the chip out and read it, right?
yeah, exactly. I mean, if you flip it over,
Yeah, it's got some weird.
It has all kinds of these bodge wires on it that change what the original cartridge was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And like I said, I never got any of those cartridges to work in the cartridge that they came with.
Okay.
I could dump the ROM and put them on another cartridge that I had created, and then I could get them to work.
Yeah.
But I'm not exactly sure what was going on with all the bodge wires there. It would take an afternoon of sitting down and mapping that out and figuring out what address that's actually mapping to, and I haven't had that afternoon yet.
Your copious free time. Yeah, I hear you.
But all the things that you sent, Joe, were on those cartridges. I mean, the
Correct.
whole board with the ROM.
Used the Oliger cartridges like that.
There were several different Oliger cartridges that I was sent, and there were different vintages. So
right.
Some of them were using larger EPROMs, and some of them were using the smaller ones. So
yeah, there's another one that uses a 2764, which is
right.
a 8K ROM, EPROM rather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got them to work on the 1510 clone, huh? Okay, good.
Some of them, yeah. Well,
okay.
1510 clone just maps it into the same address space as the original one. So.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get those from you so we can, conglomerize all that stuff into one place.
David, have you posted them out to your
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's what I was just showing. Was they're on the website.
Already out there.
They're yeah.
Okay.
I'll send a link to the list for where those things are. So speaking of bodges, Carl, would you like to talk about your bodgery with
Sure. I mean, before we hop off of that,
Yeah.
let's one thing we kind of noticed when we were all meeting on Friday or Saturday was Ryan. I asked Ryan because I wanted to give him the cartridge finally, his cartridge. I've been waiting to see what programs he wanted to program on it. So I asked him earlier in the week, and he gave me some programs, some of which are his own. I mean, not his own, but they're from this Bob's stuff, which I have no idea what that is, but well, I've seen some of them now. But anyway, one was Impact. He wanted Impact on there, and the other one was, I think,
That's an Asteroids clone.
Yeah, Crossy Road or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I did Impact, I had two versions of it, right? That we in our own Google Drive, and one was an earlier version, and I was asking, well, what's the difference, Ryan? And he's like, well, the later one, I think, I don't know, Ryan, you probably explained it better than me. I'm not sure why there were the two versions.
Oh, that was, well, it depends, but that was probably because the first one was done with the loader that was like the original ROM, original ROMs, but I had to, because of the way whatever software he's using to make those P files, I had to tweak it to auto start at a different line number.
Okay. So basically, I took the latest one that Ryan made, and
the later ones use the tape-like loader.
Okay, and we kind of found it's not necessarily a bug, but it's kind of an interesting effect. When he selected Impact and hit reset, it just came up like instantly. Normally, when you do a cartridge and you reset it, it's got to clear the memory. It's got to do, it takes a couple seconds before the cartridge actually plays, right? Well, when he did Impact, you hit the reset button and the game is running right away. I mean, it's just that freaking fast. It's like, wow, what the heck's going on here? So we kind of figured that, since the 1500, we were playing it on my 1500 clone, right? The TS1000 with the 1500 ROM in it. And since the 1500 ROM doesn't really check memory if the cartridge is there, that's what we suspect was happening, because in his loading code, he doesn't clear any memory and do any of that extra stuff. So the game is basically, you hit reset, the ROM starts, goes to the cartridge, loads it, and runs it. There's no memory clearing or, memory checking, or because we were kind of theorizing that, I'm remembering the 1500 ROM basically sets RAM top at 16K because it assumes, right, there's 16K in the machine. Whereas the 1000 and the ZX81 kind of figures out where RAM top is.
Yep.
Right. It's got to go and decrement or increment, or, as it's checking memory. And then when it fails, that's what it says. Okay, where that's what RAM top is. So it's kind of a side effect on the 1500 where that program would just load instantaneously. I'm talking, it was just so fast. We were kind of surprised. Like, what?
Well, it loaded like any cartridge would on any other system, which is, instantaneously.
Right.
So, right.
And so,
thanks, Adam.
Well, that gets to the difference here is that, this system was designed with the idea that, hey, we don't have anything that's written to run from ROM because we didn't have any way of previously of plugging them in. And they said, well, we could build it, right? Well, but then you would have to ask, you're trying to leverage all the games you have, and you'd be asking someone to go make a ROM version of the cartridge. And so then you'd say, well, where are we going to put that code? Because if many of those games were written to have like a basic loader, They'd have to rejigger some things, I suppose, wouldn't be too hard. And I think they just decided, well, hey, what? And they asked some guy, and he said, oh yeah, we can just put it here and here, and I'll just copy it in, and it won't know the difference whether it loaded it from tape or not. And that copy goes and takes a little bit of time, but it's not barely that much time. That LDIR, although it's not the fastest copy as Z80 can do, it's pretty fast.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was surprised that it's just basically instantaneous in my eyes.
And so the thing is, that leads to a question I was going to ask the more hardware knowledgeable. Is I realized, oh yeah, I skipped the memory and NIT. But I think my rationalization was, but I'm doing a tape-like loader, so that the memory and NIT in the original loader, basically, I guess the TS1500 ROM must have set RAM top, well, at least.
Right.
Because
it does.
And as Carl says, it's assumed it's got 16K, but eventually in the basic one, it'll still do the test. Or I say test, it zeroes it out. It still does that. Or is it just that it expands the display file? That may be what it is. But either way, for some reason, whoever wrote those loaders for the original cartridges put in the very first thing he does, one of the first things he does is he saves RAM top in a register, then zeroes memory from 16K all the way down to the start of 16K, puts RAM top back in the system variable, and then sets all the other system variables because they just got zeroed. And maybe some of them weren't set up anyway, but since that loader doesn't restore system variables, he's got to set the key ones, the minimum ones you need, and the byte at the top of RAM, and then copy the program in. When I did the tape loader, it says, well, I'm loading most all the system variables, and the ones I don't, I think one of those should be zero, and one of them I'm going to set anyway. So I'm basically writing all of the system variables, and I'm writing RAM up into at least the length of the program. So I think I just decided to skip the zeroing of everything. And so then the question was like, well, do I actually need to, is it something I should do? There was the idea of, perhaps perverse idea, of being able to ROMify a 1 or 2K program, in which case I guess you could always assume you have at least 1K. But if I really needed,
if you don't have 1K, then I guess you're in trouble.
Yeah. I guess the point is I guess I can get away with not zeroing all that memory.
Well, the other thing too,
I'm certainly writing all the memory up to a point, but not all the way to the end of RAM. I'm not doing that.
Well, the thing is too, is let's look at why Timex or even Sinclair did that in the beginning, right? So on the ZX81, they needed to know where RAM top was, right? But you could have a 16K RAM pack, or you could have the 1K. So that's kind of how they're figuring out where RAM top is, depending on how much RAM the system actually has, right? Where on the 1500, we know there's 16K there. It's built into the machine. Yep. Granted, if some of the 16K is bad, I don't really think that program of initializing memory is really for that, right? If it's bad, it's bad.
Well,
what's it going to do?
The thought was whether or not it needs to zero it, because that's really all the routine was doing.
Right, but that's what it's doing. It's decrementing it and making sure that it's actually writing to the RAM, right? And it can read it back.
But does it read it back, or does it just
that's
zero?
That's not what that init routine did, though.
It just zeroes it.
I think it does write it back. It reads it back because it needs to know if it failed, so it knows where the end of RAM is.
Yeah, but it didn't do that. End of
RAM.
I
don't know about the cartridge one. I'm just saying in the Timex 1000 and the ZX81 ROM,
I know
it does that.
Yes, the ROM does that, but for the cartridge loader, it did not check. It just RAM top is already established. Okay. So in the case of a 1000, the init routine's already been done.
Okay. Right. And that's another thing I'll talk about here in a second, because we found that bug too.
In a 1500, it says, hey, I got 16K, boom.
Yeah.
And
so
probably,
guys, we're going to be moving on to the next subject.
Right. Well, I just want to, because these are important things to ask, because we now may be able to change the cartridges to be able to load like Impact does.
Instantly.
Right. Yeah. Right. Instantly. Yeah. Why do we need to zero the RAM out?
Why do we have to wait 5 seconds? 5 seconds.
Well, it's a cartridge. It should load instantaneously. I find that, I didn't even think about that until I saw the Impact, right? That's kind of a bug, so to speak, that it's a good bug, right?
Carl?
Yeah.
We don't know that the state of the memory itself when the computer turns on. We don't know that every a byte of RAM is already 0, and potentially, like especially with Ryan was saying, if you have a program that's smaller than 16K, if you have like a 1K program, but you're loading that into a 16K space, the display file is going to get built because the RAM's there. And then if the display file has stuff in it that's not
but
zeroed.
the display file in either case, in the display file, when I load the P file, I load what the display file and the P file had. So I'm writing over that. So I think the only mod I need to do is potentially zero the other couple bytes of system variables that don't get loaded from the P file.
Okay.
There's only a couple. And so everything else is written and up to the end of the variable space. And then I set the byte at the end of memory. And anything in between is unused. And so the value there doesn't matter, because it'll get paved over if it's getting used later. So I think I'm good, except for a couple bytes that I need to zero.
Yeah, my thing is we may be able to go into some of the programs that we've already converted and just knock out the memory zeroing, part of the program, and see if that program loads instantly and works okay. Right, like Flight Simulator, for instance, right, or even chat. All of those things zero out the memory, right? So there is that, like Adam says, that 3, 4, 5 second delay before the cartridge actually starts.
Remember, that's only going to happen on a 1500.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, the 1000 is going to boot up itself, and it's going to take its time, right? But when the thing is on the 1000, it adds time because it does the same zeroing again.
Yes.
Right.
Plus, on the 1000, you still have to start the cartridge by hand.
The RAND user, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's the slow part.
Yeah.
That's the slow part. But then again, once you start the program with the randomized user, it still takes that 5 second, we'll just call it 5 seconds before the program starts. So, if we took out that part of the initialization in these cartridges, it may start right away. On a 1000, even on a 1000, it'll start as soon as you hit enter after randomized user 8192, bam, the program will just run.
Which suggests another nice to have feature of the new design would be an optional 1500 ROM to just switch out your old ROM.
Why not? Why not? Yes. Because Carl alluded to that earlier.
Yeah. The other thing I kind of wanted to mention real quick before we kind of get off of this is at one point Ryan was making these programs, right, for me to test, and I was mainly testing them on the 1500, but one time it failed, and then I said, well, I'll try it on the 1000, and the 1000 the program actually worked. And so what's the difference there, right? The difference is the 1000 actually goes through all of its initialization, all of its variable setting, it sets up all of the variables before you even try to start the cartridge, whereas of course the 1500 doesn't. So that was the difference there. The 1000 fully boots, what I call quote unquote fully boots, before the cartridges even tried to run, right?
And that was just the bug in my initial tape loader. I wasn't doing a few of the inits that the other one did do.
Right, but but it was an interesting bug for that was kind of a bad bug because obviously it didn't work on the 1500, but it did work on the 1000. So it's kind of like, okay, now we need to understand why that is, and of course Ryan found out why that is and fixed that. But so I'm just kind of alluding to the fact that we're kind of finding some interesting bugs by this cartridge player just and trying to convert programs to run in the ROM, right? So that's just kind of.
Can I maybe take the liberty to wrap this up by saying a couple of things about the cartridge player? Would that be cool?
Sure.
All right. So since we had the opportunity to use it on Saturday, we actually played 4 games, which might be the most time that these games have been played in quite a while on real hardware. We played the Asteroids clone Impact, good game if anyone gets a chance to use it. You guys alluded to earlier that I was losing my place on the keyboard, so you're trying to hectically move around the screen with your little, square spaceship to try to shoot with your little squares to shoot the other squares that look like asteroids that are outlines. But you keep losing your place and then you die. And what I found interesting about them, because we played, when are these games made, Ryan? About 2013?
I think
the more modern ones?
2012, 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we also played Crazy Kong and the original official Frogger, and they're so different. They take such liberties with the gameplay. For instance, Frogger takes 2 screens to play the game, which normally takes place on 1. And it's interesting because the Crossy Road game, the graphics are so primitive, but they move so fast and quickly that you kind of have to wrap your head around what's trying to be displayed on the screen at one time. And so you're like, what is happening? What am I seeing here? And so we were all 3 of us interpreting what might be going on the screen. And we did figure it out. And there's probably instructions which we could have read and they would have told us, but why read those? But it was a good time. And I posted a picture to the group where I played Crossy Road. I think it was Crossy Road. And I filled up every single high score in the high score table. My top score was 8. So if anyone wants to try to beat it, please do, because it's pretty damn hard. That's all I've got to say about that.
Y'all didn't do states and capitals?
We didn't.
Can I say a couple of things? I've got to leave. I'm sick. I've got to go do some other stuff. One, David, did you get my next box with those?
I did. Dear Lord.
Yeah, good Lord, right? It's like I didn't have the heart to throw them away. I thought I'd leave that to somebody else, but maybe there's something useful in there.
Right.
Is that the melted box of tapes?
Talking about two
FDD 3000s.
Yeah, 3000s that I said they were in the fire at my place.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't come through it very well, but like I said, I didn't have the heart to throw them away. The other thing I wanted to say was to Johnny Red, how's your vacation going?
Going strong.
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Going strong, fine.
Okay. You let me know when you get back so I can send you this box that I got here.
Okay.
All right. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Jack.
So
I guess. Well, get better, Jack.
Yeah.
I'm trying. I've been down for 3 days.
Oh,
stomach flu or something. I don't know.
Good thing this meeting's virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. Anyway, I'll see you guys all later.
Thanks, Jack.
All right, Jack. It kind of alluded to that. I mean, if you sent those to you, David, that's kind of one thing I'd like to get at some point is one of those floppy drive systems from Timex. I don't have any of those. So
they're melted though, right?
Are they melted?
I will have to show you. I'll bring.
Yeah, it's more like an FD. It's more like an FDD 3000.
Well,
okay. Yeah, no kidding.
Let me put it this way:
203-inch floppy disks I had were just melted into a big lump. Yeah, it's disgusting, man. You can't believe how much I've thrown away, and I sent a whole bunch to David.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure he's thanking you heavily right now. He's like,
Well, let me put it this way. I always assumed that the entire shell of a FDD 3000 was steel. And I opened Jack's box today, and they're, face side up are these two very burnt, very oxidized, because they've been through a fire, FDD 3000s. And one of them, the top shell, has clearly melted away. So I was like, oh, that part's aluminum.
Yeah. All the aluminum that was in my shop is just puddles.
Little puddles.
Like,
yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I've got to go. I'll see you guys later.
Okay.
Thanks, Jack. Carl, I'm going to spotlight you. Dive us into the world of recreating a specific computer.
Okay, so I don't know how many of you have had the chance to look at Adam's. We did a pretty intensive video of basically kind of what I'll highlight here is everything that I found differences of between the Czerweny cases and probably like the the UK cases for the Spectrum and also the 1500 for that matter. So is there any show of hands here? Anybody has seen that? I mean, it's got like 80 views, which I was kind of surprised.
Whoa.
How many people are watching, or who's watching that thing?
Who doesn't want to see that video?
Well, I mean, 80 people, come on. I mean, I don't think it tracks doubles. I mean, if you watch it again, I don't think it counts.
Probably does.
Yeah.
I've watched it 79 times. So.
Oh, well then, okay. So, I mean, if you haven't watched it, I would recommend that because, it's like 45 minutes long and gets into, great detail about all of these little things.
To give a little bit of background on that, we recorded it on Saturday evening for about an hour or so, and I edited it together yesterday and it took longer to edit because I added some intro at the beginning, which ended up taking way too much time, and I should have just left off. But yeah, Carl gave a nice little overview of what she's going to talk about now.
So basically, yeah, I got some Czerweny. I got a Czerweny 1500, CZ 1500, and a Czerweny CZ 2000, right? Which are basically the Timex Sinclair 1500 and the ZX Spectrum, respectively, right? So Czerweny, they imported a lot of their parts from Portugal, obviously Timex in Portugal. Johnny Red can probably slap my hand here if I'm saying anything that's probably not true. And so the case design for the 1500, obviously that came from Portugal Timex, right? I think I got somebody with a mic.
Go ahead.
And then obviously what they did is they just changed the plastic that they used to black, right? I think they're still painted silver, but I don't know what plastic. Anyway, they made him black, and it uses the same case design as the 1500 did. And so, which obviously is a adaptation of the ZX Spectrum case, right? The rubber key 48K, 16K Spectrum case, because the Sinclair ones had Sinclair kind of embossed on the top. It was raised Sinclair lettering, and then of course it had the little white or the raised ZX Spectrum, and they painted those white. And so Timex Portugal took that away and put those little fake vent things on the top, right? Like every Timex Sinclair 1500 has, and they made them silver instead of black. And my idea was to take a Timex Sinclair 1500 case, stick a Spectrum motherboard in it, put my NTSC ULA in there, and change the crystals out to match, NTSC color burst and the 14.111, I think, megahertz main crystal, which is what's used in the 2068. And then basically change the modulator out if I needed to, because the Spectrums use a UHF modulator, right? So they're up in the UHF 34, 36 channel, whatever it is up there. But the problem with the modulators, right? As maybe we all don't know, but the UHF ones, the output of the RCA jack output is on the left side of the modulator. And so you have to have the matching cutout on the case, right, for that. So all the Spectrum cases, they have the cutout on the left. Well, the VHF modulators that we use here in the US, and apparently they use in Argentina, because these Cerenzis have the VHF modulator in them. The output of that, the RCA jack on that, is on the right side of the modulator. So the hole for the casing has to be on the right side. So you can see on the Cerenzi cases where, they filled in the left side hole. You can kind of see where the mold is there, and plastic is, there still. It's not, they filled it in so that there's no hole there. And then, so luckily the Argentina ones use the VHF modulators, so we don't have to do any kind of changes there, which is nice. The cases already have the hole for the right side output of the RF modulator, so no changes need to be done there. I mean, that wouldn't have been a problem with a 1500 case, right? Because obviously North America, it's going to be on the right side anyway, so the case would have the proper molding output.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah,
I'm gonna share some pictures because people have been putting hopefully in the chat.
I think that would be better than looking at my mug. Just sitting here yakking.
All right, so here's the and I think Gustavo has told us this. Czerweny. The W is a V sounding. So this is the Czerweny 2000, right? The CZ 2000. And Johnny Red was saying that that this particular case, I'm going to switch to another tab, that they actually made a Spectrum in it.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so here's the Spectrum, and and your end goal, just to jump ahead a little bit, your end goal is to recreate the 2000 prototype.
Right.
Okay. So, and then here is this terrible photo from Creative Computing, the April 83 issue. And this is from the Consumer Electronics Show that they took this picture. So it would have been January-ish. And you can see the similarity as you're saying, Carl.
Right.
Between these two things. Okay, go ahead.
Right. So keep that picture
up.
Can
I say something about that picture too? When I was putting that into the video and it was enhanced and full screen on my screen, just the Timex 2000, man, does it look pixelated? It is. Carl's working with nothing. I think that's the best picture we have, right? I wanted to ask about that.
I think that there's another picture or two, but not great.
This is the case of the Czerweny machine selling in Argentina.
That's
the only minor changes is the label you have in color on the right side, upper the 0 number. This is a plastic sticker. It's not an issue. It's not volume.
Well, not actually, Gustavo, we have another picture somewhere, and I don't remember where it is, that seems to indicate that these little color dots on the right-hand side are raised.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
they're
not
domed.
Just a flat sticker. Okay, Carl.
And there's some other conversations that have been around that there actually may be a divot, a cutout, kind of similar to what the Timex Sinclair 2000 label, has a cutout that it goes into. Some people were thinking that there's a cutout for those colors to fit into as well, and I'll say this much as far as that is, I'm not going to make a cutout for them. I am going to probably buy some domed stickers that I found on Amazon that are basically for LGBTQT, whatever, they're rainbow, right? So actually yellow, green, and blue are right next to each other on the LGBT rainbow. Okay. The red is on the far end, and I think they have an orange color in between the red and the yellow. So I'll have to kind of cobble that out, but I think that'll get me close to mimicking that part of it there. And the other thing,
Carl,
what's that?
I would say, Carl, given this was a prototype and that other existing case already had a cutout for the label, that color piece was probably just a sticker at the time.
Yeah. I think it's a dome sticker because like David said, we do have other pictures of it from other angles and it looks like it's domed, right? And so is this LGBTQ decal. It is a domed, it's like epoxy domed, right? So it'll match that very, very closely. I don't think there'll be black in between the colors, like it kind of shows here. You can see a little bit of black in between each color. Maybe I can do that if I cut each color out individually. I could, put it on a piece of black paper or something. But the other thing is if you go back to the CZ 2000 case, you'll notice that it's, for one thing, it's black. So I'm going to have to paint my black case silver.
Yeah.
But I've thought about this a little bit more since I've met with the folks here in Albuquerque, and I might have another solution for that. But you'll notice over by the enter and the space key, there's the rainbow coloring, right, that we had on the Spectrums, right? The Spectrums came with that just kind of as and on the 2000 prototype, that's not there.
No,
right?
that's why you have the 4 dots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
To indicate the color. Yeah.
But my point is I had to paint my faceplate to paint over that
to get
so
the black.
I got rid of the rainbowing, and you'll see that on the video that Adam did, because I've already done that.
Carl, did you get a chance to watch that video? I'm not even sure if you've seen it
yet. Yeah,
you did?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Great job on that, really, considering how we were splicing that together. But anyway, but I kind of mentioned to Adam on the video that I thought that the bottom of the case, you see how the bottom of the case under the keyboard there, I thought that was all black. But obviously I'm looking at this one here and it's silver like the rest of the case. So in that case, I'm thinking I will use a 1500 case because it's already silver.
And just
the problem,
up.
Carl, can I derail you?
I can do that myself, but okay.
I talked to Adam, and in looking at this photo, and David could help me here, is that this is obviously taken with the light from the front.
Yep.
And I think that the matte black plastic is backscattering some of the flash to make the plastic look lighter than it is. And I think this is just a black case with a flash.
Oh, I don't know. But look at the difference between the the black metal plate and at the very front of the computer.
Which part? The front edge?
Yeah, the front edge. Yeah.
The front edge is just the black metal plate doesn't go over the edge. That's the rest of the plastic at the top, and it's matte too.
Yeah.
Well, you could show the Czerweny, the CZ 2000, and that's black.
Yeah. What is the normal color of the plastic in the 1500 machine?
Let me find another picture of the 2000.
Because in case, for example, the FDD3 system is silver, but if you have a screw or whatever, you have just only mark the paint, and then behind is black. It's over painting. It's not the real color of the plastic for the FDD3 case.
So it's not bright silver like this 1500, the Czerweny 1500.
So to me, both of the 2000s look like they have essentially a sticker overlaid on the plastic that is a different color and that contains the keyboard layout stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I think this top case.
Thank you, Joe.
Is black.
Hey, there's the other picture. See how the colors
here's the other picture. This is from Johnny Red. Thank you, Johnny. So, and this is why I think those color dots are, sort of, you can see that there's some
inlaid.
Sort of weird recessing.
They're like inlaid. Yeah.
Let me see if I can zoom in on this. Okay, cool. And if this were black and white, if this were a black case, then wouldn't it appear more like the 1000 in this image versus the grayish it is?
In my opinion, use the same plastic like the 2086 or
maybe,
or the 2048 is black,
or the 1500
or the 1000.
Well, I think they were going with the new design language, right, which was all silver.
That's right.
Everything was going to be silver, and I think they were basically starting that with the 2000. Other than the 2040 printer there, which they showed silver ones in the pictures catalog on the back of the 2068's box, but there were never, I think, any of those made. Of course, I have one, but that's just my own. I painted, but yeah, I think anything in the 2000 line was going to be silver. Look at the cassette, 2020. The 2020 is silver-ish, whatever you want to call that color. It's certainly not black.
Yeah.
And the 2040 printer came out before all this, so I don't even know why they called it the 2040. Maybe because 20 columns, 40 columns, I don't know.
No.
Anyway, the 2050 modem, silver.
Yeah.
Right. The 2060 never came out, 2065, 26, but the 2090 joysticks, those are silver. Well, no, I don't know. I can't.
No, they're
maybe
black,
those are black.
Yeah,
but the knob is silver. The knob is silver.
I guess I'd have to ask David, in all the documents that you're looking at, what was the timeline for the design language? Because this could still be before that they did that. Otherwise, why is the faceplate black if that is the case?
Right. So to your point, Ryan,
because use the mask for the Spectrum. Remember, Timex created the Spectrum in Dandel factory.
They built it.
Well, yes, exactly. Maybe get one of those and then put here. Same mold.
Gary was hired, if I recall correctly, he started in early January, about the same time that that they went to the Consumer Electronics Winter Show. So I think that Carl is correct about they had a new design language that they wanted to do, that they wanted to go with silver. Because
the other thing here too is look at the Fox vent, look at the fake vents, see how black they are?
Yeah.
If the whole case was black, wouldn't there wouldn't be as much of a contrast? There wouldn't be as much
contrast. Yes. Yeah.
Are those
if the Spectrum is black, maybe this machine was black.
Well, let me go back to the.
I think it's because the inside of those is not matte. It's not textured, and it's not reflecting. It's not backscattering the light. It's coming from the front. Or if in that previous photo, you can see it's coming from the left and the front.
Yeah. Well, this
photo, the light's coming directly from the front, a flash on that camera.
Well, look at the shadow, Ryan, the shadow down at the front. There's a light clearly coming from overhead, because if it...
Well, not very. Well, I mean, yes, overhead, but I'm saying it's not reflecting off the smooth faceplate back to the camera.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so, but the matted plastic of the rest of it has surfaces that will face the camera and backscatter some of that light.
Yeah.
Making it look like a lighter color than it is.
So Adam says silver, gray, blackish.
Yeah, silver, don't forget that this
is the new.
Oh, I know what it is, David.
Yeah,
it's space gray.
Oh, there we go. Yes, Apple stole the color.
No, it's a joke. The joke is that the space gray keeps changing
No,
device to device.
I think it's black because if you see on the top the lines, the vertical lines, okay, on the plastic, you see black inside the.
I think that those are filled with something. I don't know. I think they're filled with something to create contrast, personally. But
no,
anyway,
no,
I'm saying
Carl,
Carl.
It's the flash.
Carl, do you have the case there at hand?
I do.
Take a picture.
No, well,
it's in the video as well. You guys can definitely.
well, but if you look inside the vent, if you look inside the little fake vents, you'll either see a matte texture or a smooth texture.
Oh, I don't.
I'm looking at my 1500 and they look like a smooth texture.
Yeah, it's probably not textured.
Well, if you look at the 1500, the CZ 1500, you still have that up there, I think, right?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. That's the silver.
Yeah.
That I plan to put the 2000.
So maybe it's a darker.
So maybe they put some. Yeah, maybe they blackened out the bottom of the vents, those fake vents. I don't know.
Yeah, filled them in.
But
what I'm saying is
you count the slots
because those are smooth inside.
Yeah,
they don't backscatter any light. Okay, so the light coming from that plastic is going to appear darker than the light coming from the textured plastic.
You know, this is feeling like an X-Files kind of thing.
You know, I was just going to ask if, like, let's just pretend that we know the color. What else do you have planned for this, like the insides? Because I know you want it to be more than just cosmetic. You want it to be functional as well.
All right. So this is your goal, Carl.
Right. That is my goal. And
Continue with
your
story.
I do think it's silver, but now that I do see that the vents are black. So maybe I'll have to blacken those out with a Sharpie or something like that. I don't know. I do think it was silver, just from the standpoint, I think that was a new design language for them. They wanted the 2000 to be silver because I think the case was designed for the 2000. Let's look at it from that standpoint. The 1500 case was repurposed to be in the 1500 because that was already designed for the 2000, I think. Right?
You count how many slots you have on the cases?
You mean the speed vents?
No, how many slot has in the plastic on top?
Oh, I think
to see if it's
the same mold.
Are you sure? It's exactly the same?
It's got to be. I don't see why they would make
there's no
a
reason.
separate mold for that.
It's so expensive and so time consuming to make molds that it's not worth.
I would absolutely love to find out that one has one more than the other. I would
love to personally come and kill you.
you can count the slots. Maybe it's much. Okay,
I just think that by that argument that you would conclude that the 2040 should be silver, and it's not.
Well, you're right, but the 2040 came out way before. That's why it is black, because it came out for the.
It's so much darker though, Ryan.
But
the 2040.
Okay, so we've spent like 20 minutes on the color. I'm just saying.
I had no doubt in my mind that it was silver, but now that you guys have brought this up, I don't know. I'm still going to make it silver.
Okay. Yes.
But I do see that there are black in the vents, and but the other thing too is, yes, I want to make it functional, and I kind of mentioned that I'm going to put an NTSC ULA in it, change the crystals out, change it over, modernize it, put new caps in it, because the CZ 2000 that I have, one of the caps is blown, it's exploded. So that needs to be changed. So some other notable things that I noticed is on those pictures that David had, I think the keyboard mat is actually more gray.
Yes.
Right. I think that's like the original Spectrums came out. They were pretty gray. I don't think you can really get those mats anymore in the aftermarket. They're more of a bluish gray now. They're kind of darker. So I don't really have an original one in there, because looking at those pictures, it really looks grayish to me. But anyway, And I think
I do want to put something here in Carl's defense about colors. When he was here on Saturday, and something that the videos that we created don't show at all, even though we tried to do it, and some of it was, I cut out, is that you can't tell the color differences really in the video. I mean, you can to some extent, but like just small color differences, or they look like small color differences in the video, are quite different in reality, and it's hard to tell colors, and like with the rubber mats he's talking about, like they're completely different colors in reality, and in the video they don't look basically the same.
You just need to upgrade your video camera.
I probably do. I'm accepting donations, so.
Yeah, so on the video, you'll see that I bought 2 mats, right? I bought the mat that's supposed to be the gray one, like the original Spectrum, but of course it's not. It's basically the modern equivalent that we can get today. And I bought a black mat, right? Because I kind of wanted to see, well, what does the black look like against the silver casing? I kind of like it that way, but like I said, I'm trying to mimic more, the original design, because I actually even thought about getting a silverish keyboard overlay, the metal, make that silver as well instead of black, like it is in the 2000 pictures. But again, you're varying from the design, right? that they did. And I'm kind of thinking in my mind, hey, we're going to make this prototype. They're going to be using parts that they already have, right? And so they didn't have any other colors of overlays for the keyboard back then. That they were all black, right? So why would they, spare the expense of making a different color of that, right? Because that's the underlying color. So all the silk screening of the, the basic commands and things like that has to go over that base color, right? You would have to are they going to make a one-off of a different color before they send it to be silk screened? I don't think so, right? They probably just, it's a prototype. They could change it later if they wanted to, but they needed to have something physical to show to people at CES, right? And so my intention is just to create as close as I think that we can get, right? Maybe the color won't be right, or maybe there's one extra vent on the but it really doesn't ultimately matter at this point. But the other thing I kind of wanted to bring up is, Adam mentions the bottom half of the cases are different colors, right? Except for the Spectrum. Spectrum's all black. The bottom is black. The top is black. It's just all black. But on the Timex stuff, I don't know why they did it that way, but the bottoms are different colors, right? On the 1500, it's really pronounced because the bottom of the 1500 is kind of like a tannish color as opposed to silver.
It's not painted, right? The bottom of
it's not painted, right?
Painted,
that's just the the color of the plastic mold right.
Yeah.
And then
hey, Carl, this reminds me a question we had for Gustavo, because when we were looking at the colors, we figured Gustavo might be able to answer this question since he's seen these in person. Gustavo, was there like on the 2068, there's a little door that if you have a 2068 that still has it, that fits over the expansion slot. Do the 2000 have that down in Argentina?
The 2000, sorry, what is the question?
Did it have a little door that fit over the expansion slot?
Yes, one of those.
Yes, in Argentina, the machines sell here, we have complete, and also yes, with this accessory.
But with the Czerweny, Gustavo, did the Czerweny have that thing?
No, the Czerweny, no, it's open.
Okay.
It's
Thank
open. I never see any adapt or close this. And according to the slots there, I assume that the 1500 has 43 slots on the top. And I don't know if the Czerweny has 42. That's why if you have the real case, please count how many slots you have on the plastic.
Not right now.
This
Carl.
is awesome. Okay.
Carl just gone off.
Thing.
Well, okay. I can still talk to you guys while I'm getting this, but
work for home.
Oh gosh. Well, what else have other people been up to here? We've got about a half an hour.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what else have the group been doing in the last 2 weeks? Anybody?
I count 43.
Oh
I went to a couple of museums in the UK.
Ah, yeah, that's right. Ryan's
I
got
went
those
to
to
the
talk
Vintage
about.
Computer Festival this last weekend.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, how was that? I saw some pictures from that on the internets.
It was pretty good. I was there about 3 hours, saw everything I needed to see. Met one person I've known for 30 years, but never met him in person. That was good. He did the newsletter called Historically Brewed back in the 90s. He also did a video on the history of the Lisa, and he had that for sale there, as long as they showed it at the festival. Ran across a gentleman from Arizona, David by the name, who has a bunch of British computers, including Sinclair's and a Timex Sinclair. He had a ZX81. He didn't realize it was a US ZX81 until I showed him the 2-3 switch on the bottom. So he's happy about that. Then I met a British guy that's been in the US for 6 years that lives just a few miles south of me that has BBC Electron. He has a Spectrum, a ZX81 with ZX band, and he has a QL. And he's starting to play with the QL with the V drive. So he and I might be talking more.
Neat.
So
hopefully either one of
them
will to the meeting.
I'm waiting for them to. I'm sure they're a little busy with the meeting. So I'm waiting for them to contact me because I gave them, hey, look up ZX Zine to find out my contact information. I'm waiting for them to hear from them, then I'll invite them to this group. I didn't mention the group, but I think the guy, local guy, Steve is his name. He knew about TimexSinclair.com. So, but the other guy, I'm not too sure. But he's from Tempe, Arizona. Davis is his first name. I can't remember his last name. So he had a bit of a drive. But the guy, other guy, the British guy is actually just 5 miles from my house, something like that. So I'm hoping to get together with him. I offered him as much of the 2068 software that I've got left. So, hey, whatever you want, come grab. So, because I'm trying to get rid of the last of it. So, and he and I might talk QL stuff along with the Timex Sinclair.
Very cool.
Okay, I did count, guys. and what is the what are we saying?
42 or 43? I don't remember. 43 is the 1500.
So the Czerweny 2000. Yeah, the CZ 2000 that I have right here has 43. There's 43 vents.
Okay, same as the 1500.
Yeah, and I have a 1500 right under it, the Czerweny 1500, and it's like, I didn't count it, but I mean they're obviously exactly the same.
Yeah,
and like I said, you can see, especially look at the 1500, the color on the bottom of the case is not silver, right?
And the slot, the slot wide is the same. The plastic.
No, the slot's wider on the 2000.
It's only on the back part because you only need to modify the top plastic.
Right, exactly, because the expansion opening is only on the bottom half of the case.
Exactly. Yeah, you modify.
And you can see, and you can see on the 1500, there's like little bitty indents on the top of the expansion slot. That's where the door goes.
The door goes. But I don't. Yeah, but like you said, they're not on the 2000. That really just looks like a Spectrum case.
And you can see
printing on the back and everything.
Yeah, and you can see that. I mean, they both have the little. Well, I can't really see what I'm.
Oh, Carl, you're kind of blowing out there.
You're teleporting.
Yeah.
But you can see on the expansion, this finger here. See that it's got the little divots.
Yeah.
These little, and so does the Spectrum one. That's why I thought, well, maybe it came with a door. Maybe it came with a door. But yeah, it doesn't have those little notches in it. The other thing, kind of since I have this picture, is notice on the Spectrums, on the 2000, the writing is red.
Yep.
Right, and on the 1500, they're
white.
underneath and they're white.
Yeah, printed on the bottom shell.
So that's what's going to be kind of different where depending on what shell I pick, right? So if I paint the black one, I'd have to mask off those labels, right? So they still would be red and they would be on a background. So, but then I was thinking, well, I can get some transparent label tape for my label maker that is clear, but actually has red ink. It prints on the clear with red ink, right?
I think it would be more authentic if you bought a pad printer and, set it up in your garage.
Yeah. I don't want this to cost me, $10,000.
Well, Carl, you're probably only about 2,000 away from that, right?
Well, no, not even close.
But the square rubbers are the same rubbers that has in the FDD3 system. The power supply plus the driver and the controller use the same rubber, the square. Yeah, the foot rubbers are the same.
Yeah, all the feet. I mean, these are like ZX81 feet.
Yes, they are. But the Czerweny has what? Does it have the same feet?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a real good distinguishing.
It's not round. And also the FDD3 has a 1000 expansion module inside.
Yes,
if you open the controller,
RAM inside.
Yeah, it's 16K module inside that. Timex never use the parts.
So here's another thing I wanted to mention. I mean, it's on the video as well, but we had talked about FCC certification, right?
Yeah.
And on a Spectrum, if you open up a Spectrum, there's no shielding inside. It's just the same black plastic that's on the outside. Well, if you open these up, guess what?
Oh, look at that.
They're shielded. And it's on the bottom too. I still have this motherboard screwed in, but it's obviously silver on the bottom of that as well. The other thing is let me see if I can get this onto you see them in the upper where the modulator is up here.
Yeah.
You can see there's that black. It's kind of similar to how Timex does it. They kind of smear some kind of graphene or graphite coated something, but it's smeared up here.
Interesting.
Right. And so it contacts the silver paint or whatever that is there. And if you notice, the modulator has a tang on it, right? It has this tang here. And that touches that silver, that painted on stuff on the top of the case. And of course, the whole modulator is grounded. It's soldered here. Yeah. But so it will ground out the top half of the case. Right. So that's kind of why I was wondering. We had speculated that FCC certification maybe was hard to get, but this is the same case that the 1500's in, right? And that obviously has FCC certification.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to sell it here otherwise. Granted, there's a lot more going on in the Spectrum than probably the 1500. I mean, not a lot more, but I was kind of speculating that maybe they did get FCC certification, but they were still already so far down the path of, adding all these features to the 2000 series, the cartridge, the joystick port, extra sound, that they were like, well, let's not do this. And we'll just continue on with developing the 2068.
But the history we've been told was the other way around. That because they couldn't get the certification and that it was going to take extra time, they decided to use that time to improve the design.
Right.
Well, that's what we've been told. That's what I mean. I don't know.
I think we were told that by what's his name? Danny Ross.
Danny Ross. Yeah.
Did he really say that? I don't know. But, obviously they spent some time and effort and money to get this
but I also think
shielded.
But am I wrong? But weren't some of the other countries that use NTSC also shielded with that paint, but don't need FCC certification?
Well, no other country.
FCC.
Yeah, no other country would need FCC certification.
No, I know. What I'm saying is, I think they were painted though with a shielding paint.
Well, I think they were painted because these are 1500 cases. I don't know if there's a 1500 case out there that's probably not painted, even though it goes to a country that doesn't require it. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I guess I thought I'd seen some because
But
they needed some shielding, but don't obviously have FCC certification.
Because
remember
you know
the
this
the
is
15
this is the
the
Czerweny CZ 1500.
So let's see what
but
gets
it's
done.
also shielded.
yeah, but you have few components inside. You don't have the same noise in
You
this
do.
computer
You're
at
right.
the Spectrum.
You're
Spectrum
right.
multiplied by A, the numbers of components. And
True.
also you have more than one oscillator, you have multiple
because
noises.
the US spec ZX81 that did exist was painted inside.
Yes, it was.
And had FCC certification.
Right.
So
it
clearly that was sufficient for the guts of an 81 and a 1000, but insufficient for what was inside a Spectrum and the 2000 prototype.
Actually, Ryan, they experimented with the 1500 case with several kinds of shielding coating. There's that bright silver sort of, looks like it's electroplated on. There's another, at least one other instance. There may be two others. So yeah, but the whole SEC thing really just did, cause all manner of grief.
I have another point to try to decode. If the point is the marketing issue, Timex present the Timex 2000 series, okay? It includes the manual and the documentation published by David on the website, that in every source code or manual or whatever, Timex mentioned 2000 series, okay? One of the main difference regarding the marketing presentation is in all the documents, they mention that the resolution of the machine is high resolution mode, like 2048 or 2068 machines, correct? In a previous document, they have the cartridge info or documentation, but it's not implemented apparently in one of those machines. That's why it corresponds to the 2048 machine. And if you have the expansion, the original expansion bus, maybe the 1510 module could be an extension of the 2048 to use a cartridge, okay? In this machine, you can plug in an adapter and use the same cartridge like the 2068. Because you have the same signals on the SCLD, the only difference is the plastic mold or whatever, okay? And this is the main difference between the 2048 and 2068, but it's not correspond to the 20 or the 2000, because the
Gustavo,
2000, yeah.
Here's the problem. They talked about the 2000 from the beginning, obviously, and they talked about it as a series. The documentation got, they started writing that before they had the finished hardware, because they had to have the manual printed in order to be able to put it in the packaging when the thing finally delivered. Danny Ross made up the number 2068 when he did the announcement and decided that he liked that better than the 2048 and the 2072. And, at some point in 1983, sort of towards the middle, they decided they're not going to make the 16K, the 2048 model. They were just going to make the one model, which was at that point still the 2072 before Danny Ross made up this number. So don't focus too much on model numbers, because they don't really mean a whole lot.
No, the idea is why present this machine on January?
Because they needed to show something at the Consumer Electronics Winter Show. This was a requirement to, in essence, be in the market. If you were not showing at the CES shows in the United States, that raised the question of, what is your future? What are you doing? And that is exactly what happened, prior to
it got
this.
you a lot of free press is what it got you.
Absolutely, yes. But if you didn't show, the question was raised of, what happened to them.
That is not the real machine.
No, it's absolutely not the real machine. And actually, Lon has told us that when they showed at CES, that was not actually the computer. The computer was a bunch of boards underneath the table.
The computer real is that we have, the 2068 plus the 2048.
It was probably a judged up Spectrum at that point. Yeah. But it was not. Okay. It was not the final hardware.
But also, yeah, in terms of the numbers, they clearly knew they were going to do multiple models.
Yep.
But they probably figured, hey, we don't know what those numbers are going to be exactly, and so you just generically refer to them as 2000 series, and that's as simple as that. There's not some sort of conspiracy of, oh, it was going to be the 2000. No, that was just the generic series number.
Yeah, that part of it is true because it was a series. They were, the 2048, the number does mean something. It means, right, 48K of memory.
I thought it stood for the number of fins on the back, the air vents. I thought it was for that.
No, that's 72.
Because you had 16K of RAM and 16K of ROM, and that's 32K. But yes, you have a XROM, the 8K XROM.
It didn't add up. Yeah.
So the 2048 was basically the 16K version, and the 2072, which is what it was originally slated to be called, was the 48K version. But yeah, as David mentioned, Danny said 2068 for whatever reason, and that stuck. And then I think market-wise, they were like, it doesn't make sense to make two of these models. It's just going to cost us more money. Everybody wants the full RAM anyway, so they're like, why bother with the 16K model, right?
And they were competing against Commodore 64,
right?
Which had 64K
exactly,
and the Apple and everything else. Real quick, we have about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
One of the things that we were theoretically going to talk about was, issues around a real museum. We can't cover that in 15 minutes. Ryan,
agreed.
What we can do is look at pictures that Ryan took at the two museums that he went to in England. Are you able to share? Do you want to do that, Ryan?
Yeah, I guess I have to hit share.
Yeah, I'll spotlight you.
Screen. Start.
And we'll talk on our Sunday meeting.
All right, I'll try to go through this quickly. So is that coming through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty sketchy looking museum.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so that's the museum in Oxford.
This is in Bletchley Park.
Yeah, it's Bletchley Park. It's in Oxford. It's in one of the huts that was in Bletchley Park. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've actually been to it. It is a very cool museum.
Ryan took this picture the other day.
And so a big thing that they have going on is restoration or recreation of some of the old computers going on. I noticed there was a lot of activity in terms of restoration and recreation of old machines. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on these, but those are there, and a Cray one.
Yeah.
And there was a Cray YMP. They do have an 80. Right there it is.
Oh,
MK14. And I threw in here a picture of another era of the Heathkit, microprocessor, trainer, whatever you want to call it. Right. There's the 81.
Now, Ryan, some of it looks like it's just out. Like the last one of the Heathkit looks like it's like not even behind glass. It's just on a shelf.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a few like that. Yeah.
Huh.
Well, when I was there, actually, they had those meat racks basically set up in the hallway, and they had just a bunch of computers sitting on them because it is a very small space. And unlike the museum out in California, which is sort of now a major attraction, their goal here is to get you as in front of as many different computers that they have as possible. And so they literally kind of have them stacked in the hallways.
Oh wow.
Yeah, well, there's some that they're cordoned off so that some are behind glass, some are behind the rope, others just
I must
on a
point
shelf.
out, Ryan, that in this picture, that Spectrum looks like it has gray for the back, but we'll move on from there.
Yeah, but the paper is silver.
I'm
Paper
just
is
joking.
silver. Yes.
I'm just kidding.
And here's a very rare Sinclair light gun.
Oh, look at that
as well. So there's a Spectrum Plus in action.
Oh, could you actually use some of these hands-on? Could you like
Oh,
play with
yeah.
that? Oh,
there's
that's
hands-on
cool.
areas. Okay, there's a Spectrum box.
Oh yeah.
Then the 128K.
And the micro drive.
Toast rack with a interface 1 micro drive. There's a QL just kind of sad on the shelf.
Among its Amiga friends.
Yeah.
I actually had a B box that he fired up to show me.
Neat.
These were behind a partition, but a later series, I guess under Amstrad, a professional series, PC200.
Yeah, that was a PC compatible, IBM compatible. Yeah.
So we see here, though, there is some Timex representation.
Oh, look at that.
And so a bit more than I expected, but no 1500, no silver machines. Then lots of the calculators, and some I've not seen yet. You got your I've not seen the Enterprise programmable, for example. There's the gold sovereign. Oh, no, that's the that's the Silver Jubilee sovereign.
And this is a calculator and not a remote control, huh?
Yep.
I said the same thing to him on Saturday. I was like, "What the?"
You're right. I mean, it's like a TV
and then they
remote.
got the mini TV there.
Yeah. This is one. This is the one with the bent CRT, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's the tube.
Oh wow. That's cool.
Cambridge Z88.
Yeah.
Some Amstrad. I guess that's some actually. Okay, here we go. This is the one per desk based on the QL. With the micro drive ports there.
Oh, look at that. See.
Wait, those micro drive ports are built into the top of it?
Yeah, look at that. That's
what?
crazy.
Yeah. Can you go back to that one? Do you mind?
Go back, Ryan. We need to look at this.
What the? Huh.
Oh yeah.
And
it was also known as the Merlin Tonto.
Merlin Tonto. Now
we'll see later. Another one.
Okay.
Okay. So in what's nice is in both museums, I knew since they had the Altair, I told the guy, says, yeah, that I got a connection to this museum because this machine, right? Because everyone knows where this machine was made.
Oh, that's right. In Albuquerque.
And so I always have a connection back. The Sol 20 sitting on the bottom shelf.
Nice.
Some Commodore PETs of various vintages. And Commodore 64s. Little TI action.
Yeah.
More TI action since that came up recently, the 59.
And it's printer dock.
Yeah.
That thing is huge.
It is huge.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then the glorious
but not
800.
as big as an Atari 800.
Yeah. So then a bunch of others here. New Brain.
And that
This
bizarre
thing,
NASCOM.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that made of wood?
Doesn't it look like it?
Know.
Yeah.
I haven't researched that one yet. Apparently, this guy was one of three. The BBC Micro and the Spectrum and this, I think, were three computers that the education schools could get discounts on under the education program. But I've never heard of this machine. Anyhow, there was plenty of stuff there in the center, BBC Micro and the Commodores, and the BBC has teletext adapter and a second processor.
Oh.
Yes,
What's the second processor do?
You can emulate a Spectrum machine with the second processor. You can connect an adapter and use the machine as a Spectrum.
Yeah, you could. This was a 6502 add-on, but you could get a Z81 and an ARM one as well.
Well, what was the processor in the BBC Micro? Wasn't it a Z80?
No, I think it was 6502. I think.
Okay. But you can plug in.
I don't remember.
Yeah, no, it's correct. It's 6502, but you can connect another processor and connect both. Right. And then the machine passes the control to the second processor.
So you look it up. It was famously that they designed that in, and then that was how the ARM CPU first version was developed.
Right.
Dragon 32 hiding under there.
Yeah. What is that? Oh, the apricot.
Apricot something. Original PC.
What is that piece of junk?
You know, from looking at these, I think, Ryan, we could do this ourselves. We could have a national museum right here in between our two houses.
Yeah.
We have that computer right there. So
hey, we have the K-Pro.
Yeah.
Get Joe to join you.
I don't know which Amiga this is. I didn't get a.
It's a 500.
500, okay. So that's the kind of the racks that some of these are on.
I like the size of those racks.
Those racks were behind the partition, but the guy was there.
Oh, look at that.
PDP 8 sitting on a pedestal. Next cube. Oh, got another shot of this. Oh,
yeah, more of that junk.
These are the stands that some of those were in.
So when you were there, were there like a lot of other people, Ryan?
Yeah, there was a few people. It was kind of afternoons, so there wasn't as many, perhaps.
Okay.
Some of the Macintosh portable.
That's the first portable.
Were you there for the demonstration of the bomb?
They had a guy doing some stuff in there.
Oh, Ryan. That's a Deck Gigi.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I haven't seen one of those since a long time.
I don't know what that is, but I guess we don't have time to look at that. So next time.
It's a color terminal / computer that Digital Equipment made back in the early 80s.
So then we're off to Cambridge.
Those don't look like computers.
No.
They are. They're just really advanced ones.
Are they very slow?
So this is in Cambridge?
Yeah. No. Well, I also
There's a museum?
Yeah, I went to one in Cambridge. And on the way to the museum is the Sinclair building, which is a bit overgrown now.
I'm clapping.
Big Sinclair sign is not on there, and the hedge is too tall to see like some of the stuff, but it's behind the gate. I guess it's open, I don't know when, but we didn't have time for that. So off to a little warehouse area where this place is.
Right next to the laundry cleaning place. Great. Wow.
So when I was in Cambridge, I went to a sewage museum, but I did not actually know there was a computer museum.
I don't know when this one has started, though, but...
Okay, it's been a number of years since I was in Cambridge.
I can't remember when this museum started. So BBC, their big thing was the world's largest CPU. Done in like whatever, I forget what you call this, just some discrete components, and has all of the things.
Huh.
That's insane.
And it's running some program that's got memory mapped graphics. So they just display the memory bits. And I forget, it was some little game going on. And I guess you could play, but
That is hardcore.
Hence the
That is-
joystick. Yeah.
Wow.
What's the thing on the Rubik's Cube?
The round.
it was just some TV showing some video.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Mirror
I
in
kind of want the
bathroom.
TV.
You're right. An old apple for the mirror. Nice.
David, you get the reference? Mirror in the bathroom.
It's in the bathroom. The bathroom.
Yes.
That's where the mirror
And you know
was.
who else would get
Wow.
mirror in the bathroom is Tim Swenson.
So they had MK14 as well. They also had the Acorn competitor. Acorn
And I
System
have seen
1.
English beat in person.
Nice.
CX80 with the lid off.
So I know we're about at time, but I would like to keep checking out some of these pictures if we want to go over a few minutes.
Yeah,
or-
we're going
is
to
that
run
cool?
over a little bit here. Just
Okay.
to let
Cool.
Ryan go through the rest of his pictures.
So 81 with the silver paper printer.
Yeah. Last printed in
One
2009.
in action. that you
I
could
want to say
use.
that joystick, I hated those kinds of joysticks, and
Which
they
one
were
was
very
it?
popular.
Oh, yeah.
The Quick Shot?
Oh,
Yes,
I don't
yes,
know.
that's what they're called. They're horrible. And you're supposed to put it on and that one has the suction
The
cups.
suckers.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
come
wait a
on.
minute. Go back, Ryan, to that's a JK
Yeah,
Gray
okay,
software. I think that's
I don't care.
running 3D Monster Maze.
Monster
But anyway,
Maze,
go
yeah.
ahead.
I don't care. Okay, so again, Timex representation.
It looks silver,
Here-
Ryan.
Here we do have the 1500, but again, no 2068
God
he
damn.
had because it was US only, wasn't it?
Yes. But so
Yeah.
was the
So it was the
1500.
1500.
But even though there was 2048 and all that, didn't see him.
Mm-hmm.
Now that
We
is
have
awesome.
here.
Yeah.
This is a prototype of the
Spectrum.
Spectrum.
Yeah. This turned up yeah, John Grant. This turned up a couple of years ago, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah, they dumped the
so
ROM and apparently it was different, or is that a different one I'm talking about?
No, I think you're right. Adam.
here's the details. And if you read this, yep, they unveiled the prototype, got it, dumped the ROM. So those are out there somewhere. So get busy. And and basically they kept working on it. Sinclair shipped an earlier version and then decided not to update the ROMs, that it was fine. So this has later ROMs than what we've all been using.
Right.
And it says the BASIC was found to contain, amongst other things, disk drive support. Now, obviously there's details not here, but I'm sure in the archive that they publish, we could find out more about that. I think that would be an interesting thing to learn.
Yes, they publish in the ROM, the dump, and also the source code, and put on the public domain of this machine. Yes.
Yeah.
It's official.
So here's this original Spectrum with the light gray.
Yeah, look at the gray keys,
Yeah.
man. Those are gray.
And then a Spectrum Plus behind it.
With those crazy keyboard.
And then the Spectrum you could use with another
Black
crap
keys.
joystick, probably.
Did you get a chance to try it? Like, what did they have running on it?
No.
Like a
I didn't have enough time
No.
to do any of that. Grundy
He was
New
in a
Brain
rush to get to the
again.
pub.
Well, we had very little time. And then this. Oh, another Spectrum Plus there. Oh, that's a Spectrum.
That's a toast rack.
You have the pound sign or the dollar sign on the
Oh, it's
key?
a different case Spectrum Plus. Okay.
Oh.
Well, no, that's a toast rack because it's got the heatsink on the side. The other one is the first. That's the first.
Yeah, they're both Spectrum Plus.
They're both Spectrum Pluses, but yeah, one's called the toast rack.
Oh, look at this.
So here we've got some CZ action.
Yeah.
1500, and then I guess what the card explains a bit. This is a later Spectrum.
Later 2000 or Spectrum. Right?
Yeah, because they had some plus, what they call plus models, and they use that case.
Oh, neat.
Here's
I
another
have
one.
I have 1,000 model on the another case of the Czerweny.
Yeah,
You
the
compare
plus.
yes, it's
the 1,000 plus. Yep.
1,000 plus. Yes, I have one of those machines.
Wow.
Okay, now here's a Ukrainian
Oh.
Spectrum clone,
Wow. It looks like it's from the 70s.
which also uses a clone Z80 processor. There's a
Well.
Russian, the Soviet UA880A is the clone that they use. Here's a Spectrum clone.
Czechoslovakian Spectrum.
Here's the +2.
Yeah, look
I have one of those.
That's beautiful.
Here's a shot of its of the QL. Here's it with program loaded.
Oh, nice.
They had like a demo, and you could load a couple programs, but it was connected to a crappy CRT though. One per desk. I want to say it's the one at Bletchley Park that, you know, it's on the shelf on the hallway near the front, like you said, just so you could go and look. You weren't really supposed to touch them, but they were just there. It actually had a micro drive in there.
Or the tape, is that what you mean?
Yeah, and a cartridge in there, and I said, yeah, it's a micro drive, and I pulled it out, and yep, there's the wafer. Oh, here's they had a better one up close that you could use of this PC200.
Oh wow!
And I guess some
It looks so much like the 500, like the Amiga 500.
And then
oh, nice, the multimeters,
multimeter and frequency meter, portable oscilloscope.
Oh, wow, that's small.
And the amplifier that, in Sinclair fashion, was only capable of 3 watts instead of the advertised 12. Not sure how you fall that short, but then more of the calculators. We had the executive in white here as well.
Oh, that's right. Ryan, why don't you tell him real quick about the keypad on that? Because I didn't get it and you had to explain it to me.
Oh, because they had the little micro switches poked through tiny holes, and so to guide your finger, they're in the center of a well.
Square.
So that way your finger stays there, and it's easier to press a tiny button.
That's the ultimate cheap Sinclair thing, because
that's
just a raw push button.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah, but see, all of those other micro switch things that let the micro switches poke through, they don't have the little wells around them to guide your finger. They didn't think about that. So here's the Oxford and a red Cambridge memory.
Wow.
Pretty cool. The wrist calculator. You can see how much wider than the strap it is. And pretty clunky. I guess that's a cover. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's what it looks like, sure.
Oh, that's the top case from the kit, I guess.
Huh.
Perhaps. Not really
Ran
sure.
on 6 mercury batteries, and what? Said it lasted an hour?
For 2 seconds. Yeah.
There's the executive. Apparently their Jubilee edition is not in the case right at that time. But
did you take it?
So there was a silver Jubilee, a black, and a gold.
You mean Sovereign?
Sovereign.
Oh, that's just Jubilee edition.
Of the Sovereign, yeah. The President, the horizontal.
So does anyone on this group have any of these kind of calculators? Does anyone collect them here?
I have the Radio Shack version.
I have the scientific calculator of Sinclair's.
There are a lot of them on this ZX Museum.
Then the micro quartz for your car. So it's a digital car clock at a time when a lot of cars may not have had a good timepiece.
You had to look at the sun to tell what time it was.
No, a white version of the watch that probably never shipped because the watch itself was such a failure.
Yeah, right.
The earlier TV with the traditional kind of tube. And then the
That
flat
one
one.
sold in the U.S. and was advertised by Terry Bradshaw.
Was it really? Oh, that's crazy.
And so again, they had an Altair, and so again, Mexico gets a shout out.
Nice.
Woo, Albuquerque!
And I think
Microsoft, yep.
in
That's
here,
the original. Yeah, their logo. That's the original logo. Gosh, I haven't seen that in a while.
Show me the logo. I didn't notice which one you're talking about.
It says Microsoft right there. That's their original
Oh, really?
logo.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I could have designed that one.
Right out of the 70s.
and
Yeah,
I
but they
can't
do mention
remember if in
Albuquerque.
here.
Yeah.
Oh, look, Albuquerque again. Imagine that. Then they moved to Albuquerque and founded it in Albuquerque.
Yeah. So if
What is
you
this
go to
Albuquerque place?
if you go to Redmond, Washington, they claim that it was there. You can tell them they're lying.
Yep. Because that's where Bill Gates has his mugshot was here because he got pulled over for speeding in his Porsche.
No, I have to read through here. I thought it was no. I'm thinking something else. Never mind. It was on the other ones. I thought there was something in this text that was interesting, but no, it was that prototype. Okay, MC10 and
Got one.
And the French version.
Yep.
The French.
Don't have
I love that color.
I know. Doesn't that look cool?
And I don't know. This says it's this was an upgrade to another Alice 32, but I don't know how that relates to the MC. To the.
Do you guys want me to paint my Timex Sinclair 2000 red like that? I can do
yes.
that.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Duh.
Work one.
At least then we wouldn't be arguing over gray, silver, or black.
I'll be like, is that orange or red?
Okay, wait, just real quick for a second. This keyboard, this is the keyboard that you could get surplus at Radio Shack.
This Oric one?
Yeah, the Oric keyboard. This is what it came from. You could buy these at Radio Shack like around 1985, and folks would take them and like Keith took it and put it in his 2068.
I remember they used to have the Coleco Atom keyboards.
That too.
Yeah, they had like 5 or 6. I mean, you could get the Commodore keyboard, the TI keyboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got to dump them somewhere, man. Why not Radio Shack?
Yeah, it probably was a victim of 1984 and had to sell them off.
Mm-hmm.
You see there,
it's interesting because those were never released in America. So
no,
a lot of these were not. There I didn't get a good picture of it, but one of other Sinclair's side companies was doing wafer scale stuff. And this is a wafer scale SSD. That's 160 megabytes, but I didn't get the year, but you can look that up when that was. Jupiter Ace.
The infamous Ace.
That's the one with fourth or something?
Fourth, yes.
Yeah.
Look at that keyboard on it, though. That's a much better keyboard, don't you think?
That's nice.
No, not on the Acorn, on the Jupiter.
Is it?
Oh yeah, they took They took the Spectrum. Well, it's the guys who worked on the Spectrum.
Yeah.
So Acorn Atom in an unusual black case. It was normally a kind of a beige thing.
Does it have the right year for that? 1980?
Well, the Acorn Atom. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know exactly. Computers Lynx 96.
Never heard of it.
Yeah,
that was an obscure little one.
Here's Commodore 64 running a port of Manic Miner.
Oh yeah. I actually had that in the mid 80s, and I'm like, what is this crap?
The computer or the game?
I had both, so you decide.
I think their +4 was not there, and there's a 16 in its place.
Oh.
Kind of the same thing.
Well, go back to that picture for a second, Ryan.
Well,
because I had a 16 in the 90s, and it was pure black. So that kind of can tell you like the color scheme.
Oh. Amstrad 464.
Yeah.
There's a better. They have a Dragon 32, but you could use it.
Now,
so,
designed in Cambridge, that's pretty loose because the 64 is essentially the same thing as a Coca, a Radio Shack color computer, yes. And both of those things are the Motorola 6809
reference design.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
Reference design, yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned that when we were at our meeting. I was like,
yeah,
the color computer is basically the Motorola reference design. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so
it actually is a colorful, no pun intended, but a colorful history. But yeah.
Yes.
Here's an example of an MSX machine.
Yeah.
Toshiba with a cartridge.
Z80, buddy. Z80.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that thing didn't take off in the US, but
With it, well, we got
they
the
were
Spectra
very.
videos.
we got some what?
The Spectra video,
Oh, we did actually.
which
Yeah.
did not take off.
Here
Right.
Here it says the MSX stuff came too late to Europe. And in the US, just anything had a hard time breaking into the market, period.
Yeah, at that point.
Here's a Tatung Einstein.
3-inch disk drives.
I got a Tatung CRT right below me here. My old TV.
The tongue. That's what I would say. The tongue.
Oh,
look at that.
Amstrad Color personal computer.
Isn't Tatung the sound that they make in Law and Order?
Notice the case here, guys. This is really, really similar to the Spectrum 3 case, right? With the disk drive in it.
Yeah. Looks great.
So that's a 3-inch floppy? Is that what that is?
Yeah. Yeah.
The hell's that? Oh.
Right. Where's that from?
Maybe they need the beige one. I got a couple of those I could send them.
Oof.
520.
Right, 520 Amiga
1200.
Yeah, that is a 1200.
Here we go.
Gosh.
Hey, I got one of those. I got two of those actually.
A replica Apple One.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Easy to replicate that, man.
Yeah.
Off the shelf parts, except for the PCB, but.
Oh, okay, yeah. So then we got the Apple IIe.
Oh man.
Apple III with profile drive. Lisa.
Yeah.
Notice.
Don't those go for like 10K now or something like that?
Something like that.
That's what they did originally.
Yeah, right. That was the original price.
eBay price for a Lisa is between, I think, 3 and 5K now, but if you poke around, you can get them for cheaper, especially at like vintage festivals and things like that. There's people who will sell them for more reasonable if they don't have to ship them.
Right. That makes sense.
They had at least one up and running on Saturday.
Wow. At the VCF West. Yeah.
Yep.
Notice here though, the original, just like the original Mac, those arrows are shifting arrows. There are no cursor keys on the original keyboards.
Oh.
That's
one has
you're supposed to use a mouse for everything.
Yeah, this one has a later keyboard on it, and it has the arrows now.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs forbid arrow keys.
Yeah.
And PCAT. And this was kind of cool. They had a room set up they called the 70s office. And so here is I don't know if this was working. I didn't really have time to look.
That is a 70s coffee cup.
Yeah.
And next to it was a PET with a gigantic floppy drive unit.
Yeah.
And a Victor ashtray.
I noticed that too, yeah. That's awesome.
I kind of want the ashtray.
And once again,
New
Mexico represent
for your landfill.
Oh gosh, yeah. Look at that.
By the way, I have one of the landfill cartridges.
Do you?
So, that's awesome.
Yes, I have an actual one.
That landfill is very close to where I was born. That's down in Alamogordo area.
Oh wow.
20th anniversary Mac.
Yeah.
And
Pi.
Pi 400 like I use here.
Very nice.
Yeah.
What? Oh, cord keyboards.
So these are computers.
Oh,
not just keyboard. This is a computer and organizer.
Braille. Yep, Braille computers.
And a Braille computer and a picture of Mr. Wonder using,
look at that.
Using that. There was some other stuff like that too. I don't think I got photos of.
Oh, wow.
Sure that picture wasn't AI created? Oh, sorry.
And so then you get off into these other things like Comex PC1 based on the RCA 1802.
Wow.
Yeah, these were popular in the Netherlands.
This is a Chinese educational.
Kind of looks like an MSX kind of clone button.
Here I got some China education computer and a Bandai RX-78 Gundam, because I guess the company owned that TV series too.
Bandai, yeah.
Thompson 6809E.
Yeah.
France, sold by Olivetti in Italy.
So which of the museums did you prefer?
I kind of like this one just because you could get, there was more hands-on. They had a whole education room. I didn't really get a picture of it, I don't think. And I guess part of it was kind of like 80s classroom. And, this had a big variety. The Bletchley Park's a little more focused on those older, big vacuum tube kind of things. And obviously the code breaking stuff.
Looks like we need.
Bletchley Park is a combination museum of the Museum of Bletchley Park, and then the computing museum is on the back side of it across a parking lot on the back side of it.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, I have one of those things, although it got kind of mashed on the way over.
The Robotron?
Yeah.
German, right?
I think so.
The one Joma I met in Arizona has the microbeam, which is the first one I ever saw.
Probably the one with the best name maybe is the Hope Dolphin.
That's bizarre.
You see any Ferranti computer? The Mercury one or Mercury 2?
I don't think so. This was a cool one from Japan that ran NPM.
No, this is early.
This ran NPM. It says right there.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And so it could multitask because of NPM.
Yes, and also C Basic. Yeah.
I don't know much about this, and the placard got out of focus.
I'll tell you that those keys I love it. I need one of those different keys.
Yeah,
that's pretty color.
That's pretty cool.
I think the Timex 2000 needs that in the upper right corner.
Butterfly keyboard ThinkPad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember that one.
That was the stuff.
I think that's a 701.
Yeah. And then some organizers. They had a lot of, I don't think I included them. Maybe they're on here, but they had a lot of the Scion stuff that was really cool.
Yeah.
That sword is really small.
The sword so the cartridge looks big.
Yeah.
Hey, but it had a cartridge.
Right.
Yeah. Aco and Cambridge workstation. That was
the hard drive in it.
Business computer.
It's got to be one of the very few computers to use that.
Torch. Torch
use
did
what, David?
some interesting stuff. Another designed in Cambridge.
That's a terrible name for a computer. Like
the XXX?
No, Torch. I mean, like.
Okay, but remember they named a hard drive Fireball.
This is Unix computer.
Well, tell me about this one because.
Yeah, that was the quantum Fireball. That's right.
Yeah,
Torch hard disk, which I guess there's a hard disk inside and then obviously a floppy too. But I tried to make sense of this. Is basically they put other stuff together. So this is basically a BBC Micro B with a Z80 coprocessor and a hard drive and with the hard drive
controller.
interface.
Well, they say SASI. I think that's I don't know what that is.
It's a
ST506
competitor to SCSI.
is
okay.
ST506, I think, is a Seagate drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yes, they have an board. It's a SCSI to ST506 controller. Use SCSI bus for the C80 and also then use ST506 for the disk.
Yeah.
I had a similar hard drive set up for my Atari 520 ST because Atari didn't exactly use SCSI, and so you had to get a translator board to translate to the regular SCSI, and then use the SCSI board.
Yeah.
You didn't play some Pong?
Some console
looks like it's behind
console representation.
glass.
Yeah, that one was. I think you could play some of these others.
That's the
of course.
biggest piece of crap there. Oh, that's the best one right there.
You.
That's the best one right there.
Apparently in Europe it was the CBS ColecoVision for some reason.
Strange.
Naming rights, probably.
Another piece of crap one.
Yeah, when I was into the ColecoVision in the mid-90s, I would run into CBS releases here in America, which was weird in the thrift store.
So that's a good album right there, man. That's
I was going to say,
let's
deal with the Human League album.
Famicom. Yeah, there was one. Okay, and then they had some.
I'm going to break out in some Human League in just a second here.
That's their greatest album, man.
HP.
Hey, some SGI.
Wow.
Probably picked these things up for a song, people trying to get rid of them.
Well, it's just racks. That
I used
first
to work
one's a
with
rack.
those.
You have to try and get them before they decide to scrap them. These days they just scrap those things.
So how about the colors on here,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Can we go back to the SGI real quick? I want to take a quick look at something.
So this is the Origin 2000 with some sort of, couldn't quite read it, virtual reality.
Siglon graphic workstation. Yeah.
So each of those racks should have 16 processors.
Wow.
But that one on the left is a little odd. I've never seen that before. Oh, it's got a storage on it. With the 2000, you had 8 processors in the top, 8 processors on the bottom. And then a little monitor in the middle was basically a 386 powered console to manage the machine. And you only needed one console per machine. So that's really 2 separate machines, not one.
Yeah.
So heck, I got 32 processors in the machine I'm watching this on.
I think there are 5. Those are R10K, I thought. Again, I was at SGI when that came out.
Wow.
Here's some sort of Sony terminal that it didn't really see anything.
View data
terminal. Does one of those things say Gandalf?
Yes, it does. It was a.
What the?
And then they had
a modem, right?
They had stack of old modems here.
Yeah. Yeah. I see they have the internet in a box right there.
Very unfortunate. That top modem is really strange.
The US Robotics? Yeah.
No. This miracle technology. I don't know. You can change the CCIT version and.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think you can plug a guitar into it.
That's how you get the connect sounds.
Very unfortunately, this
the sound of dial-up. Oh my god!
On that last one, the last one, does the baud go to 11?
I think if you turn around on the back on that top one, there's a micro drive slot.
Okay, and then just other stuff.
Sharp MZ80,
yeah.
Sharp MZ80. They did a bunch of those in that series. This has a little cute little
tape player,
tape in it. Don't know what this was.
Yeah, I don't think they do either.
A ITT authorized clone of the Apple II.
Yeah.
In a silver case.
Oh,
Oh boy, here we go.
You have an LSI terminal there, ADM 503.
Oh, and there's a North Star down below this sword.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
North Star Advantage.
Yeah.
And the advantage was graphics.
That's crazy.
And a 8088 coprocessor. So I guess it ran CPM and DOS. It could.
Oh, I remember that.
Original iMac.
iPuck.
Another Next Cube, signed by Tim Berners-Lee.
Whoa.
Well, I guess when he visited or something. Or no, it was donated by some company.
Oh, so it was donated by CERN in Switzerland, probably.
No, it
Tyne
was.
and Ware.
It says here.
Graphic design company called Tyne and Ware.
Oh, okay.
In Tyne and Ware.
Oh, in. I'm sorry, in. Okay, that makes more sense. Whatever Tyne and Ware is.
I think it was a city, but
yes.
I used to get the Tyne and Ware user group Atari newsletter from England back in the late 90s.
Huh. You're making that
workstations.
No, I'm not.
Some terminals, and then I quite like the keyboard in this one with the giant function keys.
Oh, Evan Sutherland was a big graphics terminal maker.
Yeah. I tell you, I love a keyboard case that has this kind of finish.
The hammer.
Wasn't the mother of all demos done on Evan Southern equipment?
Yes. Computer graphics in general started. I did simulations for them when I got out of college.
Wow.
That's the
They
Java
also made
station.
a Linux box, among other things.
Oh, I had one of the indies at SJ, and the top is the indie cam that came with the indie.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
And then they mixed it with a Sun Java station, whatever it's called.
Oh, the Apricot F1. Nice.
I don't know if I got
Saturday there was somebody with a bunch
everything.
of apricots.
Huh.
Schneider Euro PC. We didn't get that here.
No, well, we're
I'm
not
guessing
Euro.
it's German.
Amstrad.
GW Basic.
Okay.
About that. GD2.
That looks like a Radio Shack clone. Yeah, it's a Model 1 clone.
The Genie? Huh.
Yeah, there was a bunch, especially out of Hong Kong.
Shouldn't be back in the bottle.
Oh, that's the XD Sorcerer under there. Look at that.
Yeah.
The Sorcerer 2. There's a Sun Spark Station.
Pizza box.
That's a 5, I'm guessing.
5. Yeah.
Huh.
And then apparently DEC had a big thing in the UK as well.
Big presence.
So there was a bunch of a big DEC presentation area over in the Bletchley Park one too. So here's you get a PDP-11.
Well, they're big in universities. My college had one.
Accessories.
PDP-11.
And a classic IBM key punch.
Oh,
yeah.
Craziness.
Oh yeah, I did get some of there's a Scion netbook. Pretty cool. Oh, there's the Black Watch in that display.
Hey, the little professor.
I remember those.
And the Data Man.
Yeah, that looks familiar too.
Oh, there's some other Scion.
Slate.
Atari.
Slate, rather.
Hey, the portfolio. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one of those, but
the work slate.
Isn't that crazy?
That's pretty rare.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It looks like the keyboard doesn't have any symbols on it, but
no, they're printed next to the key.
Yeah, clearly inspired by Sinclair.
That made it easier to not have custom keys. So some early digital cameras. You got your Apple Quick Take.
Yeah.
and a Kodak, and I actually have that one.
Oof.
Megapixel.
And some Walkman action, and another great album.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, Rio.
And something with another cool keyboard. I love these old vintage ones. We got some green, and especially you got keys that are just crazy, like error reset, num,
Just
skip, F
skip.
core, C core, left 0.
Dupe. Inhibit dupe.
Oh, is that a tab release or whatever it is?
I don't know.
Carl, will you come over and paint my keyboard?
You're starting to inspire me. I'm gonna get
Yeah.
a whole bunch of different color the Spectrum keyboard mats. I'll cut them up and change all the key colors.
So here was a iPhone prototyping board,
or
one of probably many, I think.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Acorn. Now these last couple here are just some PC things.
No, that's
Acorn.
That's an ARM machine though. The 3000, isn't it?
No. Well, I don't know. It seemed like it was just a PC. Maybe not. It's
This
not real
keyboard is
clear.
similar to the Commodore.
It's a replacement for the
I think it's an ARM machine.
3000. It doesn't really say here.
Yeah.
So maybe it is.
Says your time is up.
Just an Amstrad Mega PC.
Oh wow.
With a Sega inside.
Cartridge.
It has like
What
a
do you mean
Sega,
Sega inside.
Mega Drive. Got it.
Wait, inside the computer?
Inside
Got
the
a
computer.
Mega CD drive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course,
It's
that makes
another name
perfect
for
sense.
there's Genesis in the U.S., Mega Drive everywhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
But it's not normally inside of a computer.
that's the selling point, you see.
Well, homes are smaller in the UK.
Okay.
Cool.
So there we go.
Thank you, Carl.
Now I
thank
don't
you,
have to go to
Ryan.
England. All right.
Okay. On that note, I'm gonna oops. Our next meeting is 18th. Let me double check. Yes. 18th, 2 p.m. Eastern. So be there or be square. And we will actually try to talk about museums.
Well, we'll have the one set up in Albuquerque by then. Don't worry.
So what I was going to say about the photos I was showing was related to the museums, because they were museums, was you notice that it's not a Sinclair museum, it's a museum of computing.
Computing, yeah.
And so the Sinclairs are part of that. Okay. And so I think that's the only way you stand a chance, is that, even if you just tried to have a Commodore museum here, I don't think it would necessarily be a big draw.
Yeah.
That it needs to be part of an existing one. And there are some, and probably the larger they get, maybe the better chance they have.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are a lot of museums, official museums that are like open every day and so on and so forth. The main one is probably the Computer History Museum. A lot of the rest of them are private entities that are done basically by people like you and me that have huge collections of stuff, but are not necessarily an official museum. They don't necessarily have paid employees and so on and so forth. Right. They don't have the kind of budget the CHS does to go out and do stuff like that. So,
and importantly, when the champion goes away, they go away.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Paul Allen lesson there is, if you're going to collect all this shit, make sure you have a plan for if you suddenly expire.
Succession.
That is very important, and that's been driven home by the whole Paul Allen problem.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you very much. See you on Sunday. 2 weeks hence.
Maybe. We'll see.
Okay.
Monday night.